Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Alien is a 1979 science fiction film that was directed by Ridley Scott, and it was written by Dan O'Bannon, all of it being based on a story by O'Bannon and Russell Shusett. The movie stars Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, and Yaphet Kotto. The storyline goes that in the distant future, during her return to Earth, the commercial spaceship Nostromo intercepts a distress call from a distant moon. The 7-member crew are awakened from their hypersleep, and the spaceship descends on the moon. While exploring that moon, the 3-member team of the crew discover a derelict spaceship and a huge chamber inside her containing thousands of eggs. When a curious team member goes near the eggs, the parasite inside the egg attacks him, rendering him unconscious. He's then brought back on board the spaceship, and the ship takes off. After a little while, the parasite dies, and his host ends up waking up, seemingly unruffled from the experience. Everything seems to return to normal on the ship, but not for very long. Casting calls and auditions for the film were held in both New York and London. With only 7 characters in the story, the director sought to hire strong actors so he could focus most of his energy on the film's visual style. In the script, they made a note that explicitly stated that the crew is unisex, that all parts are kind of interchangeable for men and women. This allowed the director to interpret the characters as he pleased and to cast them accordingly. They wanted the crew to resemble working astronauts in a realistic environment, a concept summarized as truckers in space. To assist the actors in preparing for their roles, the director ended up writing several pages of backstory for each character, explaining their histories. When they were casting the role of Ripley, Ridley Scott invited several women from the production office to watch the screen test. He did this to gain a female perspective on it. All of these women were unanimously impressed with the then unknown Sigourney Weaver. On the first day that Sigourney Weaver was on the set, they shot the scene involving Jones the cat, and Weaver's skin started reacting badly. She got hives and started itching. She was horrified immediately and thought that she might be allergic to cats. She was afraid that the production might recast her role and that she would lose her job. As it transpired, Weaver was reacting to the glycerin that they had sprayed on her skin to make her look hot and sweaty. During the early development, actually in the writing phases of this, the writers ran into somewhat of an impasse, trying to develop and work out a way that the alien would get aboard the ship. They came up with the idea of the alien breeding with the crew members, but not in a conventional way. This eventually developed into the facehugger concept of the film. This method of reproduction via implantation was deliberately intended to invoke images of male impregnation, so both of the writers were adamant that the facehugger victim be a man. Firstly, because they wanted to avoid the cliché of women being depicted as an easy first target. And secondly, because they felt that making a female the casualty of this symbolic rape felt just entirely inappropriate. And thirdly, it was done to make the male viewers feel really uncomfortable with this reversal of gender conventions. In the chest-bursting scene, which is the most dramatic and most surprising of all, Veronica Cartwright's character of Lambert screams when blood spatters on her. Her screaming and horrified reaction to this were all genuine, just as the shocked responses of the other cast members was also. They were purposely not told how much blood would come out and which way it would splatter. The director knew that keeping this secret before they filmed would give him the best response because they wouldn't expect it at all. The spacesuits that were worn by Tom Skerritt, John Hurt, and Veronica Cartwright were huge, bulky items lined with nylon with no outlet for breath or condensation. As the actors and actresses worked under the hot studio lights in conditions in excess of 100 degrees, they were pretty close to passing out a lot of the time. They had to have a nurse on hand while everything was being filmed to keep them supplied with oxygen in between takes. As some of the cast members actually did pass out, they had to make some modifications in the suits to keep this from happening. Originally, there were no movie companies that wanted to make this project at all. Even 20th Century Fox passed on it, and they stated various reasons, but most of them was the fact that it was too bloody. 20th Century finally agreed to do the movie as long as the violence was toned down somewhat. Sigourney Weaver was the last actor or actress to be cast in the film. Part of her audition was shot on the movie's sets, which were still in the process of being built. She had to rush to her audition due to traffic, and her flushed appearance that she had helped convince the makers that she would be a great candidate for the role of Ripley. At one point in filming, Miss Weaver was completely shocked when the director stated what the next scene would be. Before filming the scene where Ash shoves a rolled-up magazine into Ripley's mouth, Ridley Scott told Sigourney that Ian Holm was going to stick the magazine up her hooter. Of course, he's referring to her mouth, though Weaver was completely confused at the time. The British slang for nose was hooter, but Weaver didn't know that, so she was a little bit confused, and she just wasn't real sure where he was going to put that magazine once he rolled it up. Go back and look at this exceptional film from 1979. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat for sure. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.